Good afternoon, guys. It's Big Al, Alan Feaster with KO Boxing Breaking News. Thank you guys for showing up here this afternoon. Another news report for you. We are going to go live tonight at 9 p.m. Central Time. So if you'd like to come on live tonight to share your thoughts on boxing this week, we're going to try to hit the show hard here, guys. We're going to bring out a lot of content for you and be more disciplined with it. All right. So thank you for your support. Everybody left comments on TikTok, also YouTube Shorts, all the views. Everybody appreciate your support. Everybody's support in the last 2 years. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Again, thanks. Can't do it without you.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much.
Also, guys, we still need a brand new subscriber. So if you're watching the views or watching the show, please, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the bell notification button.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
To be notified when we do go live, guys. So we won't keep you hanging. We'll get into the news report here today. We'll talk about it. Here we go, guys. All right, here's what the story is, guys, here today on social media all over the world news. On Canelos' claim that Benavidez has accomplished, he says, nothing. All right, David Benavidez has hit the mainstream with David has done nothing boxing-wise in boxing. Having feasted on old washed-up fighters Anthony Durrell and Demetrius Andrade, or Canelo Alvarez leftovers as well, Caleb Plant, for example. He has at least hit the algorithm. People know who the Mexican monster is outside of boxing now. Jake Paul, king or jester, he was officially given the stamp of approval by self-proclaimed face of boxing, YouTube pro boxer Jake Paul. Now, Benavidez was recently a guest on Jake Paul's podcast where they both discussed their issues with Alvarez. This signifies that while David may not have earned the boxing accolades or money that Canelo has, he has something more important: clout. Now, guys, the American lexicon has produced a slang term called clout. It's used to indicate a person's status or social approval score. Now, if it were a presidential race, you could say David would be up in the polls and Canelo would be very far behind. Now, Benavidez has been campaigning hard and he has finally won over the masses, maybe not inside the ring, but a quick glance at social media, and it's clear David is on top on social opinion. Being friends with Jake Paul proves it, or does it really? Come on, guys. Seriously, Jake Paul. Friends with Jake, okay. Jake Paul is bitter at Canelo for what he says was reneging on what he claims was a done deal for them to fight in the summer of 2025. Jake just comes across as salty, crying that Canelo is only money hungry and doesn't care about boxing because he broke his date with him. Jake, what are you talking about? You're not a real boxer. Or maybe you are. I don't know. Choosing a better date came along and threw $100 million in his lap. How dare Canelo and how dare Turkey Al-Sheikh upstage his circus fight? Pretty pissed about it, I guess. It's a bit iconic, if you ask me, nothing less. David and Paul simply sounded as if they were two bitter women gossiping like a sewing circle about a man that stood them up for a bigger breasted woman. Serious, guys, come on. Really? Come on. Okay, I dare any man reading this to seriously argue that they would do anything different than what Canelo did. On one side, you have Jake Paul and David Benavidez chasing you for a one-off payday for significantly less money. Or on the other, you can make $100 million for William Skoll and a lot more with Turkey Al-Sheikh going further. There isn't an honest man who wouldn't choose the latter. We'll get into it, guys. The hated term marination. Boxing fans know the dreaded word marination. Yes, some things in life need time to grow and marinate. A good wine or a choice of prime meat needs to be seasoned and marinated. But guys, in sports and boxing, and specifically boxing, is this a good strategy or is it more of a avoidance strategy? Guys, like when a woman tells a man she is dating that they should wait to consummate. That can have two effects for a man, particularly for a lot of you guys. It can be the woman's way of exploiting him for more free dinners. And he gives up when he realizes he has been played and could enhance the man's desire for a woman and make him do his best to win her over. Now, guys, women have perfected this strategy to a T. Why do you ask? Because it does really work. Now, guys, it also works the same way for boxing. I'm going to have an unpopular opinion and say, yes, sometimes big fights are better suited for marination. And Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez is no exception. Now, guys, is it a strategy that can backfire? It could. Yes, but can the future payoff be absolutely worth the risk? You bet your ass it can, guys. Now, there isn't a person reading this or hearing this today who doesn't face this scenario every day. But in boxing, this is a frowned upon, and fighters are bashed for perceived ducking when this strategy is employed. We are seeing Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman dealing with this same scenario as we speak. Of course, fans would love Ennis versus Norman fight. This is instant. But the harsh reality of everything is that neither is a true star yet at this time. Now, guys, sure, the money may be decent now, but if each fighter can keep winning and raising their profile, then a future fight becomes even more valuable. This is an undeniable fact. Boxing history, guys, also backs up my opinion. Mayweather versus Pacquiao took around 6 years to make. Spence versus Crawford took 4 years to make. And Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin was 2 years in the making. Again, marination, guys. In all those instances, the fights become bigger over time. Any reasonable fan would have to admit that if, for example, Spence versus Crawford were made in its infancy, it would not have done well in the box office at all. Now, the constant back and forth with fans and media created the firestorm that ensured its commercial success. Now, guys, and for every successful marination process, it can also backfire as well. We see it now with Fury versus Joshua, Joshua versus Wilder, Tank Davis versus Lomachenko, and many others. A fighter could lose during the marination process, but again, the risk is still worth the big reward. Case in point, guys, Fury versus Joshua. This fight is not what it once was, but it will still be a massive commercial success. Fans will complain that they want the fight during their primes. I will argue that it doesn't matter whether Mayweather or Pacquiao were not in their primes when they finally fought, but people still wanted to see it after all the years of waiting patiently, that is. Guys, people will still want to see Tank Davis versus Lomachenko and Wilder versus Joshua to further prove just how crazy boxing fans really are. They're still wanting to see the rumored Mayweather versus Pacquiao 2, even if this was just an exhibition. And the guys will go on. The truth is that if Benavidez versus Alvarez had happened even just 2 years ago, it would not have been a mega event. Fast forward a mere 2 years, David has raised his profile and is mainstream now. Even with Alvarez's commercial numbers slipping and showing bodily wear and tear, his star power would grow to unprecedented heights if and when he does fight David Benavidez. This is all part of the process, guys. Now, the fear is, what if Alvarez or David were to lose a fight in between? I'm here to tell you guys that it would still be a fight that fans want to see and still be a major commercial success. Pacquiao lost on his way to Mayweather. Now, guys, Floyd went to jail and the fight only got bigger and bigger. The bright side is if David continues to win big fights, then the fights only grows to unmanageable commercial success, guys. Where Benavidez is able to get a fight against Bivol and beat Canelos' conqueror, then a fight between him and Alvarez grows exponentially. But guys, the reality is that this fight is being marinated and marinated. Crawford skips the line. We're going to talk about Bud for a minute. In a case of perceived favoritism, Bud Crawford has not, sure what you call it, maybe earned or maybe given a shot at the king. That's why it has been said that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And Crawford has somehow seemingly been adopted by money man Turkey Al-Sheikh as his favorite son. But let's compare Crawford and Benavidez a bit. Guys, is Benavidez a better fighter than Crawford? You would have to say that. Factually, Crawford has done more in the sport than Benavidez, and also to most critics, even me, he is arguably pound for pound number one. But from a purely technical boxing aspect, guys, I'm sure most would consider Crawford as having more skills than Benavidez boxing style wise. Now, guys, what about the level of opponents? The consensus would have to be based purely on the technicalities. Crawford has faced the better opposition. Crawford has one pound-for-pound fighter on his resume, with Benavidez has none. Now, guys, Crawford cleaned out his division for undisputed, albeit weak ones, some people feel, and Canelo was correct in that until David beat Canelo leftover Plant, he had accomplished nothing, guys. Before Plant, he had no recognizable names on his resume. It must be noted here today that he beat Porky and Ronald for those titles. Edge Crawford. Now, guys, since boxing is also a very big business, let's look at a commercial appeal. I'm going to say that Crawford and Benavidez may be about the same level as far as social following and reach go. Now, guys, they are both dwarfed in their department by even Ryan Garcia, let alone trying to compete with Canelo Alvarez. Now, guys, Crawford and Benavidez are known within the boxing world, but outside of it, in a mainstream society, it's hard to say if your average American would recognize either man walking on the street. What about ticket sales and viewership? Based on Crawford's lone pay-per-view success against Errol Spence, Crawford wins that department. Why? Why do we say that? Because Benavidez has been flopping at the box office, guys. Now, guys, if Crawford is not a guaranteed ticket seller or pay-per-view success, because other than a successful Spence fight, most of his commercial fights have failed. Guys, then Benavidez might as well be fighting in his garage on YouTube. The only clear case Benavidez is more deserving of a shot at Canelo over Crawford is weight issue. Okay. Now, guys, significantly, the fans argue Canelo shouldn't be fighting a junior middleweight and Crawford's moving up, while Benavidez is in his own division. Well, guys, that argument kind of got thrown out the window when Benavidez decided to leave the division of his nemesis. Say what you will, but this move allowed Crawford to skip the line because David got out of line, guys. Now, for the ultimate comparison, money. What makes more money, a Canelo versus Crawford pay-per-view or a Canelo versus Benavidez pay-per-view? It's hard to make a convincing argument that Benavidez versus Alvarez fight does better at the box office than Crawford versus Alvarez. Logistically, guys, speaking, observing the past data, a Canelo versus Crawford pay-per-view will be more successful at this moment in time based on the numbers alone. When comparing Crawford and Benavidez, Crawford has at least one commercially successful pay-per-view. Now, guys, based on the evidence, Canelo would have to be a fool to turn down the insane amount of money that Turki Al-Sheikh will be throwing at him to face Terrence Crawford. Now, guys, also with Turki Al-Sheikh's endless funds helping promote the Canelo versus Crawford fight, it has a much greater chance of being commercially successful than a fight between Alvarez and Benavidez. And lastly, guys, and finally, for Canelo, beating Crawford will add another pound-for-pound fighter who is also a future Hall of Famer to his resume, only increasing his legacy. The truth is that Benavidez has a way to go, a long way to go, guys, to achieve that status. Beating Bivol would be a very good start. Guys, tell me what your comments are in the comments section. Tell me what you think about this and your opinions and your thoughts, guys. We appreciate you stopping by here today. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Say goodbye to this pretty lady here, and we'll catch you on the live show tonight. Good day, everybody.